Hello everyone and welcome to Season 5, Episode 6 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in NXT history with match number 45 on our list, which is the NXT title match between the champion Drew McIntyre and the challenger Andrade Almas from the NXT TakeOver WarGames event held on November the 18th, 2017. This match, and specifically the moment that it creates, is one of my personal favorite moments in NXT history. It felt like the best example that NXT had ever had at, really striking while that iron was hot and doing a surprise upset that really came across as just that, as a big time surprise. We talked about the rise of Andrade Almas, basically the rejuvenation of his career in pairing him with Zelina Vega in 2017. They became a very, very hot act. Drew McIntyre was on a collision course with Adam Cole. When Drew won the NXT title at TakeOver Brooklyn 3 from Bobby Roode, he was attacked by Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era post-match, and that seemed like the next natural big feud. They'd started building it on television, and it looked like it would pay off at what was originally NXT TakeOver Houston. However, for whatever reason, NXT TakeOver Houston took quite the turn when WarGames was announced, and it became NXT TakeOver WarGames, which would feature the Undisputed Era. So Drew McIntyre at this point was kind of left without an opponent. Enter Andrade Almas. So it made perfect sense. You take a hot heel, he was able to very easily slide into that role. And it initially felt like what would kind of be, a solid title defense for McIntyre to build him up to eventually defend the title against Adam Cole, possibly Royal Rumble weekend. I actually got the opportunity to see these two guys square off at a house show. I went to an NXT house show at the historic Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, and Almas and McIntyre main evented, had a really fantastic match. And I remember going on Twitter after that and saying, like, they have a really good takeover match in them, and I hoped that was something that we would get to see, and, it didn't take long for us to eventually get that. This match is so good. Like I said, Drew McIntyre, at this point, it seemed like he would, easily defeat Almas to move on to that Adam Cole match. Almas and Zelina used a really great strategy in this match of trying to get into Drew's head. And that's evident, immediately as they're doing, the darkened kind of ring introductions that NXT championship matches would have. And Zelina Vega is just like talking mad garbage to Drew. Andrade gets in his face and like pie faces him while the referee's holding up the title. Drew kind of, gets pissed at that and goes after Almas, and he, kind of puts himself through the ropes, right, to get the referee to back Drew off. And it was just a really good, opening kind of sequence to show that, these guys are going to play those mind games because they know Andrade is outmatched, especially in the power department, by the champion. So as the match starts, Andrade starts to get a little bit of momentum going, but then Drew just shows that he has an answer for everything. So Andrade kind of does that, move where he goes parallel in the ropes to counter the whip, kind of that tranquilo, pose, and Drew just proceeds to boot him through to the floor. Zelina Vega in all the chaos goes for, her signature kind of diving hurricane run off the apron. Drew just catches her and sets her back down. Andrade, uses that distraction to try to come through with a tope, and Drew just cuts him off with a big forearm. He's got all of their tricks scouted, and he's able to handle them. But he does make a mistake. A charge, into the corner leads to him missing, posting his shoulder, and Andrade is able to take advantage of that and go to work and hit that, Minoru Suzuki-style hanging armbar that he does as a signature maneuver. Drew does end up making a comeback from the arm work, hits a bunch of big suplexes. He hits a vertical suplex where he just kind of tosses Andrade across the entire length of the ring. That looked amazing. He hits overhead belly to bellies. He hits this awesome like pop up into an air raid crash, which was really cool. And I don't know if I've ever seen that move before. So I really loved that. Andrade, again, he tries to go to his signatures. So he goes for the double knees in the corner. Drew's able to block that, but he falls victim to that sneaky spinning back elbow that Andrade hits. Andrade gets a reverse tornado DDT, again, one of his signatures, only good for 2, goes for a reverse Rana, and again, they just show the power of Drew as he's able to hang on to it and flip Andrade forward. If you're, an old Minnesota area independent fan or an old Chikara fan perhaps, you would know the North Star Express, Darren Corbin and Ryan Cruz. They would use that move in tandem. They called it cruise control. So McIntyre basically throws him over cruise control style for another great spot. We get, again, you know, Andrade trying to do what he can to roll. So McIntyre goes up top. Andrade hits a springboard drop kick to knock him off the top rope to the floor. He hits a slingshot Hurricane Rana where he launches Drew face first into the ring post and then follows it up with a big-time Orihara moonsault over the ring post to the floor. Back in, he hits a Tree of Woe double stomp and the double knees. It's only good for 2. You know, Andrade at this point seems like he really doesn't know what he can do to put the champion away. And Drew hits his Future Shock DDT out of nowhere. Only gets a 2 though. Again, a really, really good near fall. I bit on it as the finish at the time. Watching this match back again in 2021, I know the result, but I still was kind of like, oh, like that was a really hot, good near fall out of nowhere. So Drew, again, at this point, you know, Future Shock doesn't work. He hit that pop-up air raid crash earlier, so he decides he's going to go for that off the top. This allows Andrade to slip out the back and hit the double knees once again to the back of Drew's head, flinging his head forward into the bottom turnbuckle. Again, only good for 2. The crowd is really rocking and rolling here with the new near falls. It's getting hot. Andrade and Zelina at this point, you know, they have to go to plan C, D, E, F, you know, whatever they're on at that point. So Andrade goes out to the ringside area to grab the NXT title. That allows Zelina to run in with the distraction and hit a short Hurricane Rana. So think, you know, like Heidi Lovelace, Ruby Soho, Ruby Riott, whatever you want to call her, you know, she would do that. Amazing Red was the first person I saw do it. But that Hurricane Rana while, you know, the opponent's on the knees. And this was great because by hitting it that way, you know, Drew wasn't able to kind of use his strength to hold her like he was able to do with the Rana off the apron earlier. So she plants him with that. Andrade sneaks back in the ring, hits the El Idolo, the hammerlock DDT, only gets 2. Again, crazy hot near fall, crowd's losing it. Andrade, you know, feels like maybe he just had the match slip through his fingers. He goes in for a charge and Drew hits the Claymore out of nowhere to block the charge. Again, you know, super hot near fall, but this time it's Zelina Vega making her presence felt once again, putting Andrade's foot on the bottom rope to break the count at 2. So Drew at this point, he goes, you know, kind of for a more, you know, set up Claymore. He kind of, you know, gets it ready in the corner, goes in for the charge. Andrade's able to move. Drew sails over the top rope to the ring apron. It's kind of like hung over the top rope in the turnbuckle. Andrade proceeds to hook his hammerlock and hit the El Idolo with Drew hanging off the top rope. But he hits him on a real high elevation and basically drops him with like a dirty sheer drop brainbuster on it. And it gets the 3 count to the shock of everyone. The crowd couldn't believe it. Andrade couldn't believe it. The announcers couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it at home watching at the time. This was a really, really great, true, legitimate upset where, you know, we put our you know, smart caps on or whatever you want to call it, where we think we know how wrestling is going to go. There was no way I think anybody expected Drew to lose the title at his first TakeOver defense when he had that pre-set up feud with Adam Cole, but plans changed. Drew ended up getting called up, and Andrade would win the NXT title on this night in a fabulous moment, a great match, and like I said, overall, one of my personal favorite TakeOver moments, just because of the shock and awe of it. This match is super good. Again, you know, if you're used to Andrade in AEW now and didn't really see that initial NXT run, you could see just how great he was and how much Zelina brought out of him. And this match is a perfect example of that and a really great moment in his career that would lead to, you know, a pretty memorable title reign with a couple of really good TakeOver title defenses in there too. With WWE, you know, you can watch this match on Peacock. If you're outside of the States like myself, if you have access to the WWE network still, you will be able to find it on there. You can subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again tomorrow as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.